somehow I existed in this whole other reality. But I don't know what happened.
After getting back from the alternate timeline, Max tries to wrap her mind around how her photo-hopping rewind powers work. She herself theorizes that there are a bunch of other Maxes and other dimensions out there. We can kind of see how she's probably right. There are other Maxes that aren't us, that aren't our Max from our timeline, a timeline we're playing through. The Max in the alternate timeline is very different from our Max. She's in the Vortex Club. She's good friends with Victoria and Nathan, and she does drugs and spends a lot of her parents' money. She's actually entering the Everyday Heroes contest. She doesn't seem so shy. So when we go back to the alternate timeline, we're piloting that Max and acting completely different from the Max in that timeline. So we go through a couple days in that timeline as ourselves, as our Max. We pilot her. And when we go back to the reality we know, it's a new day. We see that she goes immediately from her dorm room that night in Chaos Theory. She hops into the picture. And when she comes back, she's in Chloe's room. It's a new day in episode 4. She missed a lot of time while she was in the alternate timeline. But we can see that Chloe and Max actually did things together while Max was in the alternate timeline. They brought up the board and started organizing their clues. So who was piloting our reality's Max while we were gone in the alternate timeline? Was another Max created during all of this? Did they swap places maybe? What happens when Max photohops? And is this the only Max with rewind powers in this dimension? Time travel is so complicated. The subject matter of it can be so complicated. With every new decision you make, you're creating a new reality, and it gets extremely complex. If that is the case, then by saving Chloe's life with our rewind power, we created a whole new timeline for Chloe and Max to be alive in, for Chloe to have survived the bathroom scene. We branched off to this timeline, and that other timeline is still going in another dimension. Let's say Max photohops and escapes the dark room. Well, if we continue with this theory, she's just going to be jumping into another dimension, a previous point in another dimension. This dimension, where Max has been captured, will continue on, and most likely Max will remain in the dark room in this dimension. This is why I feel like at the end of the world party, I feel like Max was saying goodbye to everyone. She was imparting final wisdom to everyone, and seemed like she just wasn't going to speak to them ever again. Perhaps that's because this timeline's Max is going to die in the dark room, and we are going to go jump back in time and pilot a different dimension's Max before Chloe dies, before we go to the junkyard, before any of this stuff happens. So if we create a brand new Max every time we rewind or photo hop, that's the thing with time travel. There can be so many different rules. It all depends on the world that the developers created and their rules for time travel. So it could be every time we rewind a small amount. It could be every decision we make. It could just be photo hopping that creates the alternate dimensions. And it also depends on them who pilots Max when we do photo hop, because somebody obviously pilots her. She's not doing it. We aren't doing it. We are busy in the alternate timeline after we changed a bunch of stuff, while a different Max goes around in our timeline, one that we are not piloting. So if they switch places, Would the alternate realities Max realize what's going on or just not remember it? Maybe the reaction for alternate Max coming into our Max's body would be similar to that of our Max after the tornado vision. Is that what's happening when she has the tornado vision, when she's rewinding, when she doesn't realize how she got there? Is she swapping places with another one of herselves who might be photo hopping or rewinding or trying to stop the tornado?
What's happening? I'm trapped in a storm? How did I get here? And where is here?
I feel like I may not be wording it completely right, and I'm not getting my entire point across, but I have a feeling that the tornado vision was not really a vision. She was there that day, and one of her selves, past or future, is rewinding and throwing herself around trying to find a way to stop the storm. Whichever one it happens to be, I don't think we should ignore the alternate dimension theory, or more importantly, who was piloting Max while we were in the alternate timeline.
Thinking about all these lifelines almost makes my head hurt worse than the rewind. How much time have I altered since?